Well, you're here today talking to our pro licence guys. How important do you think as a coach it is to continue your development through the years with these kind of events and courses?
I think the pro licence is a very, very important qualification. You know, it's becoming mandatory now if you want to work at top level, and we're getting a very good quality of football person, you know, doing their coaching qualifications and going right the way through to pro licence level. So I find that very, very positive, and it's also positive that people who've got their pro licences want to profit perhaps by the odd day when, you know, a few of the national team managers are up to talking about their experiences to continue their development, I guess. So I'm very much in favour of it. In particular with this game, we were really hung up or caught up in the dilemma that you always have as a coach, and it doesn't matter whether you're a national coach or a club coach. How much can we train before we're going to get accused of leaving too much on the training field and taking away from the players' performance on the game? That's a you know, the dosage of training, how intensely you can work. It's always going to be with a view to the matches that you've got to play.
You've obviously been in the game coaching a very long time, I hope you don't mind me saying that, but you know, what do you see as the biggest differences from, say, talking about football when you started to what you're talking to the guys about in there today? What's the biggest kind of changes in the game that you've seen?
I think it's very hard to assess, you know, what you learn in the game. You obviously do learn something, you know, when you've worked for such a long time. You know, there is some little bit of wisdom maybe that you collect over the years, but I don't know necessarily that it's a major difference in philosophy and the way I think about the game and the actual topic of football coaching. I don't know there's such a major difference between 1976 and today in that respect, but I'm sure there is. I'm sure if I was to be able to look at myself coaching and to hear myself talking in 1976, I'd probably be appalled at how little I knew. But I haven't made any sort of conscious efforts to change philosophy, because you know, the game is about football players really, and a coach's job is to prepare football players, so that's never going to change, and it's all about just a question, I guess, of how well you do your preparation, and if you're going to be successful, how good your players are.
It's an interesting thing what you said, you're multilingual, if Wikipedia is to believe, you're 4 or 5 languages that you can speak.
Don't believe Wikipedia.
Well, I'll try not to, but one of the new elements of our pro licence is the guys do have to learn another language. Do you think that's allowed you to have a fuller career, a more variety of a career, and do you think it's quite a good thing for the guys to learn?
Well, the languages have come, you know, by themselves. I mean, obviously in my school days you learnt a language at school. I don't know if that's still obligatory, but it certainly was obligatory in the type of school I went to in England so many years ago. And really the other languages have come through, if not necessity, through partly necessity, partly interest, because I've worked in the country. So Sweden, of course, working there for 12 years, it would be hard not to pick up the language. And when it comes to Italian and German, that was to some extent forced upon me by first my time in Switzerland and then my time in Italy. So I don't know that I would necessarily push for people to learn foreign languages, but on the other hand, I think it's a nice string to have to your bow, especially if you happen to speak a language which will serve you in good stead. You know, a language like Spanish, which will help you in so many different countries, not least of all America, because there are parts of America now which are more Hispanic than English.
Just lastly, on the pro licence side of things, you talked in there to the guys about looking at yourself as a coach, and you know, looking at, you know, what you've done over the years, and particularly in international management. What makes you good at international management, because you have had success there?
Yeah, I mean, it's always the next success which is the important one. You can't live on Switzerland, Finland and the UAE, but I don't know that there's any great difference between being a national manager and a club manager, really. I mean, obviously if anything, if you've got any skills as a club manager, you need to be even more aware of them and hone them even more to be a national team manager, because you have so much less time with your players. You could say, I suppose, you have less time to make mistakes with them as well. If you were a club manager, you might make more mistakes than you would do as a national manager, because you're more aware that your time is limited. But I think the qualities that a football manager needs are similar. And the major difference between club and international management, everyone knows, is that there are longer times between games, and the games carry a higher importance for people within the country, so there's more pressure perhaps when the actual game comes around, and that's why it's probably suited to someone who's a little bit older, because you know, you're less likely to miss the day-to-day involvement as you get older. When you're younger, that's going to be the first thing you miss, the chance of going out and kicking the ball every day.